Yo, what's good? Easy Breezy Ebe here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the movie The Fly. I just watched The Fly. Oh, this is not real, Oh! That was some of my reaction to the movie The Fly, and I will link it up here. Yeah, up here for you guys to check it out if you want to watch that reaction first before we dive into this movie review. If this is your first time here, welcome. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. And if this is not your first time here, welcome back. I'm sure you've seen some of my other reactions. And I hope you also help out the channel. We're a small channel, and by hitting the like and subscribe button. So I don't want to spend too much time reviewing the movie. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it first. And if you have seen it, but you haven't seen it in a while, you can go check out my reaction to it and, it'll refresh your memory. If you have seen the movie recently but don't want to hear me give a synopsis, you can go ahead and use the timestamps at the timeline and skip to a future section. But basically what happens is we have this researcher, Brundle. He's working on teleportation. He meets a journalist, Ronnie, and Ronnie, her ex-boyfriend, is also her boss / editor for a science magazine. I forgot his name. But basically, Ronnie sort of falls in love with Brundle. Brundle is, experimenting on teleportation. Eventually, he experiments, in a fit of drunkenness and jealousy, he thought that Ronnie was still sleeping with her ex. He got drunk and he made a bad decision. He got into the teleportation device, not knowing how safe it was for living things to do, but that wasn't his downfall. So, it worked. Technology actually worked. It's just there was a fly in there with him, and the machine wasn't calibrated properly. And his DNA and the fly's DNA sort of fused, so he has a genetic anomaly akin to some sort of mutation, very, very heavily referencing cancer in a way. He even says that word to describe his own condition in the movie. And because he has the genetics of a fly, and the way it works is now you have these genes, your body will start to create proteins based on those genes. And so he slowly turns into this fusion, half human, half fly monster. And by the end, in a desperate, he's also not there mentally as well. And he finds out that Ronnie is pregnant, but Ronnie wants to get an abortion because that baby, they did have sex after he got into the machine. So she doesn't want to have a deformed half fly baby. So, but he finds out she's about to have an abortion. He goes and steals her. The ex follows her and to try to stop him, but he fails and he gets maimed. Right at the last second though, he does kind of save Ronnie, and the fly monster merges with the door to the machine, and he begs for a mercy killing, and Ronnie's the only person who can do it. And she shoots him in the head right at the end, and that is The Fly. So what did I think about the movie? I thought it was good. I thought the performances sort of carried the movie. There's really only 3 main characters, and really it's 2 main characters. It's Ronnie and Seth Brundle, and they carried the whole movie basically. I felt that at times I thought, because of the tropes of horror, and I've seen a lot of movies, you've seen a lot of movies. I don't know how original this would have been perceived back in the 80s. And I'm sure in the 80s, they didn't have content flying at them left and right. So but for me, it was a little bit kind of predictable, but that wasn't the appeal of this movie. The appeal of this movie was really how things would play out, right? And how will they solve this problem of the fly, and the concept of it. That being said, once the pregnancy bit got thrown into the mix, then at that point I was like, oh, okay, no way. I have no idea how this is going to end at this point, because this is there's something new here. This is not something that every horror movie, monster movie deals with, right? Like the heroine has potentially the monster's baby, she's pregnant with the monster's baby, and that is definitely new territory for me. The scariest part of the movie was for me the scene of the larva, like the doctor pulls out the larva. Like I said during the reaction, the acting is great. Jeff Goldblum in particular, I mean, you know, Jeff Goldblum can be a little bit too Jeff Goldblum sometimes, but like this is way earlier in his career, and sort of his sort of neuroticism and also the way he's manically portraying this scientist character turning into something else. It's very good. I thought it was, you know, very, very top notch. So kudos to Jeff Goldblum. You know, I mean, everybody knows who he is at this point. He's an icon. Geena Davis, the first thing I've seen her in. I'm not sure what else she's in, but that guy, the ex-boyfriend guy, I don't know who he is, but he gave a good performance as well. So kudos to the acting. 3 characters basically throughout the whole movie, and they carried the movie, which is really great. David Cronenberg, it seems like I just searched him up a little bit. It seems like he doesn't only do horror stuff, like History of Violence, you know, Cosmopolitan. I haven't seen either of those. Cosmopolis, whatever, the Robert Pattinson movie. I haven't seen that. I've been meaning to watch it. I heard it was good. Maybe you guys have seen it. But after this movie, definitely I'll check out some more of his stuff. I need to watch A History of Violence again. I remember it being very good, but I had I didn't really understand what was going on. I was very young when I saw that movie. Yeah, that's definitely something, you know, I'm definitely going to check out some more of his movies. This was very good. He also co-wrote this as well, so makes sense. The horror of this film, I thought it was good. The thing is, like, it was more nasty than it was scary. The makeup, the practical effects, man, if you do it right, it works so well. Surprisingly, one of the nastiest moments is a moment when they didn't actually show it. It was when he was regurgitating his food, and the ex-boyfriend was watching it on the recording, and we haven't seen him throw up his enzyme juice and then eat yet at this point. But we did hear it through the television, and that shit made me gag for real. As far as jump scares go, there are a few, like him jumping through the window, him coming from the ceiling. That was scary. But of course, I think the biggest thing of this movie, the biggest horror aspect of this movie, is the fly itself. His transformation, how he looks, how he basically turns from a regular, like, perfect human specimen, basically, is Jeff Goldblum. I mean, come on. And he turns into this fucking monstrosity of deformity. So that whole transformation from human to fly is the premise of this movie. And so let's look deeper into that. I think what I like about this transformation is, usually in other movies or whatever, transformations usually happen quickly, right? It's like, oh my god, I'm infected, I'm turned into a zombie, or oh my god, I'm infected, I turn into this. And it's like you could see it happen in real time, you know. But in this case, like, his transformation started out subtle. His wound healed, it didn't heal the way it's supposed to heal, with the weird hairs coming out. His appetite changed. I mean that in terms of his food, and also his sexual appetite was insanely high. His libido, like an insect would, right? Always mating, always eating, and he wasn't eating complex foods, right? He wasn't throwing up digestive fluid at that point, but he was eating simple sugars. So he was changing slowly but surely. Then his face changed. You can see, like, his skin was changing, and then he started growing the hairs everywhere. His teeth started falling out, fingernails started falling out, and eventually by the end, he was like this he looked a lot like an extreme version of a leper. Like, he was basically a big walking tumor. And at that point of the movie, they had already sort of compared this to a disease, like a genetic disease akin to cancer. And if you know anybody with cancer or lost people with cancer, you guys know then how horrible that experience is, and just how it changes someone. It changes not just the person who has it, but it also changes, you know, how your family deals with the person, and everything around them changes as well. So I think this movie in a way comments on that. When he changes physically, he doesn't only change physically, he changes mentally as well. He's not the same person before he gets into the telepod as after he gets into the telepod. And I don't just mean his biological urges. He seems more rash, he's much more impulsive. Yes, he gets stronger, but it's hard to say why he's doing it. Is it really a change in personality, or is it like his desires and his sort of biological urges is making him act more that way? But it also sort of, for me at least, seemed like he's sort of addicted to this thing, and he does go through the telepod more than once, and he urges other people to go through the telepod because he's like, it's the best thing in the world, it'll change you. At this point, he thinks that it's the actual telepod, it wasn't the genetic transformation too. So like there is that sort of aspect of, oh, I want to be this, right? It's just almost like it's a choice, even though it wasn't a choice. But at that point he didn't know. So there was that aspect of the whole thing as well, which carried on to the end, where he's like, we all need to go in it together and all fuse as one family, we'll be the ultimate family, whatever the fuck that means. But that aspect of it is there as well. This, at the beginning of the movie, it read a lot like a romance, sort of like obviously the most important relationship in the movie is Brundle's and Ronnie's, and they fall in love, and if none of this happened, presumably they would have been soulmates and have gotten married and all of that. But once he changes, and to be fair to Ronnie, she didn't leave as when she started to see the weird changes in his face and the growths and stuff. She actually leaves when he insults her. He called her, I forgot what he called her, but it was something bad.
You're too chicken shit.
And that's when she actually left. So that's to be fair for her. And it's interesting, like it's a romance, and like instead of the downfall of the romance and the relationship is this disease. And as he changes physically and he changes mentally, he changes basically his whole personality. He's no longer the person she falls in love with, and that's really the downfall of their love for each other. And speaking of Seth Brundle changing, he also is, but it's obvious by the end he's not really Seth Brundle anymore, right? Like, he's a smart, intellectual man. By the end, he even talks about insect politics, how he wants to be an insect that has politics, but it's impossible. By the end, when he becomes fully, presumably when he becomes fly, like at the very end he becomes fly, like literally just a big fly, but just ugly. He's not really thinking like a human being anymore. He's no longer an intellectual, which he is, right? He's a scientist. He's and all he wants is family or whatever. I'm not sure why, but at that point he still wanted to throw Ronnie in the telepod. But yeah, he's no longer, he literally sheds his skin. He sheds all semblance of humanity is already shed. And at that point, he doesn't care about hurting anybody. He becomes apathetic to anything, like he mentioned earlier during the intellectual insect speech. And it's all just about his own desires, as insects are. They just do what their desires tell them to do. And he changes from someone, who is literally the sort of an ideal person, and he becomes this sort of monster insect that, yeah. So yeah, for me, what The Fly was really about was like, this guy, he's living the dream, and he finds out he has this illness, and he tries to cope with it the best as he can. But really, he finds out he's going to die from this disease that he has, that is out of his control, really. And and how does that person cope with it? And it ends with the tragedy of him dying, and his he realizes his mortality at the very end, and he puts the shotgun to his face, asking Geena Davis to shoot him in the face. And yeah, and that was, that was heartbreaking at the very end, because he did learn to finally accept what was happening to him. The whole movie, Geena Davis is saying, you need help, you need help, you need help, but he never seeked it. And it kind of just made things worse for everybody. But it was inevitable, really. The end was inevitable the moment he walked into the telepod with that fly. And yeah, I do think though, what's great about this movie is, even though we know that Brundle's physical state is deteriorating, he's literally falling apart. Mentally, he's deteriorating. He's not the sophisticated, smart human being. He becomes sort of this victim of the pleasures of the flesh and like simple foods and all of that. And he's just deteriorating in every way, but his motivations are very clear. And even until the very end, we're very sympathetic to him. We hear, when, especially by the very end, he finds out that Ronnie is pregnant, and he's like, you have to keep the baby, you're gonna let Brundle die, because he's afraid of dying, right? He knows he's dying, he's just trying to cope with it. And it's like, oh, I have a second chance, I can have a child. But then when he also realizes, I think, the risks of the child being deformed, and he has this, so he also asks Ronnie to and the child to merge with him. Maybe it'll minimize the fly side effects and make him more human in a sense, and truly be a family, is what he said. But I paused and read the thing, and it was like, add more humans and you will minimize the fly DNA, and increase the percentage of human, and you can be more more practical living in a sense. But even past that, right to the very end, like until his motivation was, I just need to die, I'm suffering right now. He's always sympathetic through every stage of his metamorphosis, even though he becomes an asshole and things like that. But it's like you root for him, even though the end is inevitable for him. And I think that's what I think makes this movie kind of great. But at the end, you have to root for the actual human, Geena Davis, because she is innocent in many ways in this, right? So yeah, I thought this was a good movie. I can see why it's a classic. I'm sure it was a hit back then as well, and I definitely do recommend it to other people. I'm interested to see and hear what you guys think of the movie. What do you guys think this movie is really about, right? What is this transition or metamorphosis into the fly? What is that? What does David Cronenberg try to say here? Or did you just watch it as a straight up sort of very, very visceral, nasty horror movie? And if you did, that's great. I love it that way as well. So let me know what you guys think of The Fly, and what are the things I missed. What do you agree with me on? What do you not agree with me on? Just hit me up in the comments below. And if you guys have made it till this end, thanks for watching this far. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I hope you liked this video. And if you did, and you haven't seen the reaction, go ahead and check that out as well. And yeah, I hope to see you guys again in the future. Stay safe. And remember, until the next video, Eazy does it.